chance to speak. But really today is my first day to be able to address you as your President and President of the Republic of Kenya. And I think I'll begin first and foremost by saying that we go into politics for leadership. But once we go into politics for leadership, there comes a time thereafter where we must recognize that in democracies, especially democracies that have regular elections, politics is not about enmity. Politics is about choices. And once people make choices, they go by those choices until the next time they choose again. They're supposed to come together after they've made a choice and push those choices together. So I am not here today to address you on the basis of who you voted for, where you voted, why you voted, because that is your right, and that in a democracy is what we must respect. But I am here to say that as a result of those choices, you have elected me and the Jubilee government to deliver on the pledges that we made. And those pledges that we made, we did not make to our supporters. We made to the sovereign people of the Republic of Kenya. And it is our duty and responsibility to do our utmost to deliver for them in accordance with our constitutional mandate. So I'm therefore not here to talk to supporters of Jubilee or Accord. I'm here to talk to you as my fellow Kenyans who work together to achieve our dream, our aspirations for our country, for our people, for our children, for our future. So I call upon you all, and for the very first time, let me address myself to that because it's something that has been a great concern to me. And you, as Kenyans living out here, need to be the first engine of propelling our nationhood, our unity, our cohesiveness. And I say that because, you know, sometimes when I look at my page, Facebook or Twitter account or whatever, and you see some of the comments that people make, the haters and likers and all these things, what people comment. You know, there are some very positive and very useful comments, even if they're criticisms, because we are there to be criticized when we don't do the right thing, right? But some of the comments, you know, degenerate into something that makes you wonder, why did we go this digital age? I mean, it was better when we just had a newspaper to read. You know, when you see the way people interact, sijui wewe ni kabila hii, wewe una hate kwa sababu wewe ni kabila hii. Let us go out there with a positive message, even if it is criticism. Don't criticize. Because you know, whether you like it or not, like I said, choices are there. That's why we're a democracy. Huh? Au namna gani jameni? Miaka 5 hata kama unaniudhi namna gani, hakikisha umepiga kampeni. Mimi nitaenda nyumbani mkinitoa mpiga kampeni. Are you going to hate the next one? You will develop us, please, learn how to be civil to one another and to know that differences in opinion, yeah? All right? Do not mean enmity. Yeah? For us to be able to recognize that we can be of different shades of opinion. And you know that is something that is great because that encourages intellectual debate. That encourages people to think and work. Yeah? Can you imagine if we all thought the same, and you woke up in the morning and you turned around and said good morning to your wife, you said good morning. You know that little fight and scuffle sometimes you have with your wife makes life exciting.
That's a big one.
Can you imagine if you woke up every day and you agreed with everything your wife said, and your wife agreed with everything that you said? Wouldn't that be a very boring life? It's good sometimes if we argue, because it makes you think, now why did she do that this morning? Why did he do that this morning? Yeah? And it makes you do something better. So I say that because, in going through some of the issues that you have raised, I want to first and foremost eliminate all those that have to do with all those negative aspects. Let us look at the positive aspects. Yeah? Let us look at ourselves. And then go to the more serious issues that were raised, which are truly serious issues. Starting first with security. Security was a major concern amongst a lot of the points that were raised, concerns about security. And indeed, those are genuine concerns. We have had, over the years, reason to be concerned about insecurity, and one of the key factors behind that, first and foremost, is the serious underinvestment in the security sector. Over the years, neglect, lack of care for the welfare of our police, which has also led to despondency, lack of activity, lack of responsiveness. But we as a government have really taken upon ourselves to really increase the levels of investment in security, in terms of mobility, in terms of the welfare of our police, in terms of their housing, in terms of insurance schemes for them. All these in terms of better equipment for our police service so that they are better able to operate, in terms of more training, adequate training. These are measures that we are putting in place and which I believe within a very short time will begin to bear fruit and Kenyans will begin to see the result of that investment, a worthwhile investment. But at the same time, we also have insecurity posed by another level, and that is the threat of terrorism. With all of you remembering Westgate, what has happened in Gikomba, the various buses, what happened in Lamu, what's happened in Mombasa, what's happened in Mandera, Garissa, and other parts of our country. And there's been an argument that has come out in some of your issues as to that this is all happening because our troops are in Somalia. And there's been that big argument that Kenya is being attacked because we sent our troops into Somalia. I want us, first and foremost, to put this in proper perspective. Because we need to put it into proper perspective. Somalia has had problems for the last 20, going 22 years, where they have not had a formal government. And I think many of you recognize the fact that during that period, Kenya was nothing more than a safe haven for many hundreds of thousands of Somalis who fled their country. We just gave them safe haven. They were welcomed in Kenya. They settled, many of them, in Kenya. And many of them actually went on to become very successful businessmen in Kenya. Surely that is not a nation that you can say had any ill intent, yeah? Because we were a safe haven. And by the way, we all lived for most of those 20 years in relative peace. And it was the same spirit of Kenyans when they hosted Ugandans when they had problems. They hosted Ethiopians when Ethiopia had problems. We hosted Rwandese when the Rwandese had problems. Kenya has always been home, a refuge to any who has had a problem. And by the way, that scenario continued that way for many years, until such time as, again, we started being attacked by pirates who were not concerned, raising the cost of our imports into our country. We started having scenarios of our tourists being attacked. We started having bombings in our cities. You remember the embassy, the US embassy bombing in Nairobi? Kenya was not in Somalia during all that time. You remember the scenario of the bombings at the hotel in Mombasa? We were not in Somalia. You remember the scenario of the aircraft that was almost blown out of the sky again in Mombasa? We were not in Somalia. So Kenya's entry into Somalia was not driven by any other thing than the fact that Kenya's economic interest, including the interests of those who we were hosting as refugees, was under threat. That is when Kenya said couldn't stand aside anymore. And we moved in with a singular aim of working together with our counterparts in Somalia to bring peace, to bring stability, because their instability was now becoming instability and lack of security for the people of Kenya. So the argument that some of you are saying, oh, you know, we need to pull out of Somalia. Imagine today you pull out of Somalia. What guarantee do you have that now Al-Shabaab will not now find a route to stay? Do you give that guarantee to the 40 million Kenyans? So the only time Kenya can pull out of Somalia can only be such a time when Somalia stabilizes, when they have a firm government that is able to secure their own boundaries and people. Until such time, it is the responsibility of every Kenyan, it is the responsibility of every person in the region, it is the responsibility of the international community to work together with a majority of well-meaning people of Somalia to uproot these evildoers who are intent on causing all of us harm. And I promise you, Kenya has no further designs or interest in any single part of Somalia. All we are interested in is peace, is security. And I would plead with you, including our diaspora here, that those passing out messages that they, you know when they say, oh, this government is against a certain community, I say, look at our government. Our government is one and has been one of the most inclusive governments to especially minorities that have never been considered. brother Aden Mohammed be in charge of all business enterprise in this country. All Kenya. If this government had any harm against our Muslim brothers and sisters, would Najib Balala be the Minister of Mining in charge of all the extractive industries in our country? Surely, you would be able to see our hand. Surely, we would not have people like that in such critical areas. Would Aden Duale be the head of majority, the leader of majority in the Republic of Kenya? Were we hostile? Surely, our interest is only but one. Please, we just want peace. We want the opportunity to prosper our nation, and we want the opportunity for the people of Somalia also to prosper, because if they prosper as our neighbors, we too shall prosper. So those passing messages that then create despondency, or that's let's move on, no, we will not, we shall not, and we will never until such time. So we need to be very clear on that, and I just want to address myself on that, and I hope I'm quite clear on our position as a government with regard to that particular issue. Na msiogope kuja nyumbani, kila kitu ni sawa. Hata mkiwa hapa mnaweza mgongo, siku juzi mligongo hapa. Kuna usalama, unaweza mgongo pahali popote ulipo. Jioni karibu nyumbani, mkuja likizo, hoteli ziko huko, mtembelee familia, mkule ugali, nini, dunia inaendelea. We are committed completely to devolution, because there is an argument that we are not committed to devolution. We are committed fully to the implementation of our constitution. We have sworn to uphold, defend, and protect the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. It happens to be the Constitution promulgated in the year 2010. And the only issue, which again people also fail to recognize, it is like, uko hapa, umejenga nyumba, sinio, ulikuwa unaishi nyumba pale, ulikuwa umeizoea, bahali mabati ilikuwa na shimo, unajua ni wapi, unaziba, kwa sababu unajua ikinyesha, itanyesha pale. Unajua bahali panya zinapitia, unaziba, kwa sababu umeizoea. Lakini jamani, ukijenga nyumba mpya, si ndio? Lazima kwanza ungojee uone itanyeshea wapi, ujue how to hold on to it, ndio ujue ni pahali gani msingi haikujengwa vizuri, ndio ujue vile utafanya ndio panya isiingie, ujue dirisha ni wapi ambapo contractor aliwacha with crack ndio ubadilishe, because this is a new house, colleagues. We have entered a new house, and we have only been living in it for 1 year out of the 49 years that we have lived in another house. We have only just moved into this house. Surely you cannot expect that you're going to move into a new house and not face challenges. But that does not mean you wish to abandon your house. Au ni namna gani jamani? Kweli ya uongo jamani. Ile ingine kwa sababu mlikuwa mmeizoea, sasa tumebadilisha nyumba, tunaishi ndani ya nyumba ingine. And it will have challenges until we are able to fix those challenges. But that does not mean we are not committed to our new house. And we are doing everything that we can to ensure that our new county governments are able to stand up and walk But they're not going to walk in one day, you know, and they will have challenges because there are institutions that they must build. They are facing for the first time as governors, yeah, what me I faced when I was as Minister of Finance, going to try and pass a budget. Sasa wako na hawa, sasa na wako na MCAs huko wanaambia hapana, hiyo hatupitishi mpaka uweke pesa hii hapa, mpaka uweke ile pale, mpaka uweke CDF ya MCA, haipiti, mpaka car allowance, mpaka sijui nini. Ndio dunia inaenda. So these are challenges that we all must, you know, face up to. Yeah? And the answer cannot just be to throw money at it, because where are we going to get that money? Yeah? Kusema kwamba umehama na umebadilisha nyumba, sio kusema mshahara umeongezewa. Mshahara ni ule ule tu. Right? What you had when you had the old house is what you have when you have the new house. So you cannot not say ati mkubwa niongezee pesa, kwa sababu mkubwa ni nyinyi. Nikija sasa niwaambie muongeze kodi, mtasema wacha turudi kwa katiba ya zamani. You see, so we have to take it slowly. Yeah? And as we take it slowly, let us recognize that it will be challenging. But that does not take away from commitment to implementing, because it was the decision and the choice of Kenyans to build themselves a new house. So we must make it work, but we must also give it time to work. So sijui kama hiyo nimewajibu vile mliuliza kwa commitment hii. Yeah? Kwa nafasi ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumefulfill economy inaendelea kukua tourism, nyinyi ndio tourists, mkija not managed to travel home, did not manage to vote. And I want to assure you that we as a government will give all the support that we can to the IEBC to ensure that come 2017, the Kenyan diaspora will participate and vote in other Kenyans and take the decision and participate in taking the decisions that chart the destiny of your lives, because it is your lives and you have a right to participate in those decisions. Let me also say that even now, you have a right to participate in shaping your country's future. And that right comes not just because you were born in Kenya. That right comes because for all these years, our Kenyan diaspora has been a critical ingredient of our development path so far. Your remittances, your skills have all contributed greatly to where Kenya and to what Kenya has managed to achieve in the last 50 years of our independence. And as I said, and as the ambassador said, it is time we also equally recognize that fact and started to involve you more actively in the decisions that we make, in the choices that we take, because your input could help largely make our Vision 2030 dream become a reality much sooner, which is indeed true. We are here largely for the first ever US-Africa Summit. this and for the record, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the people of the Republic of Kenya to thank President Obama for that initiative. Thank him for that initiative because many of you will know, even as you interact with your colleagues from other parts of the African continent, these missions to the US to attract investment, to attract greater partnership, have been there for very many years. Usually it's at the national level. It's always engaging, trying to find, contacts with big players in the US economy, but usually to very little avail because nobody really wants to know about Kenya, because as far as they know is, where is Kenya? It's maybe a city in Africa. But this has given us an opportunity to profile the African continent. It's given us an opportunity to profile the states in the African continent. It's given us an opportunity, for the first time in a very long time, to tell a good story about Africa. Because for far too long, it's really only been the negative side that has ever really been heard. Oh, it's about poverty, it's about Ebola. It's about the negative, and it's not to say that we don't have challenges. I'd like a nation to stand up and say they don't have challenges. We all have challenges, all of us, wherever we come from. But really, for the first time, we've been given an opportunity to say that as much as we are a continent of challenges, we are a continent that is ready to turn those challenges into great opportunities. We are a continent of 700 million people, going a billion, that is young. It's the youngest continent in the world. That's something to be proud of. As the world ages, Africa is young. It is a continent that is the most vibrant because of its youth. It is the continent that is able to take on board great innovation, where many are unable to take that innovation because they're set in their ways. And that's why we have M-Pesa and many other innovations created by young talent on the African continent. We have the capacity, with the great resources that God has endowed us with, to be able to turn that to great prosperity for our people. I think for the first time in a very long time, we have been heard. I think for the first time in a long time, there has been a realization that, when they see us knocking on the door of China, China isn't in Africa because they have nothing better to do in China. China is in Africa because they woke up to the reality of the potential that Africa has. I'm glad to see that America is also waking up to those realities. And as America wakes up to those realities, there is no other person better able to tie and to link those two great continents than you are, diaspora. We don't have a big diaspora in China. It's very difficult for us to say that Kenyans in China are going to be able to take advantage of the great links that we have with the People's Republic of China. At least here we can say Kenyans have a great opportunity of taking advantage of great links between the United States of America and Africa as a whole. That's an opportunity that you have. I believe it's an opportunity that you should grasp with both hands. And for us as governments, ours is to do everything that we can to be able to empower you, to be able to facilitate you, to take that full advantage. That said and done, tourism, nyinyi ndio tourists, mkija the role that the diaspora can play in our economy. How do you participate in major government projects? I think this is a key one, and I think this is an area where definitely, and I heard the lady who was talking on behalf of us saying that you have your SACCOs and other things. I think this is one area, sincerely, where our diaspora, better organized, can actually play a huge role. If you could sit and come through, if you could sit and listen to some of the projects that we have in roads, in power, yeah, even in health, yeah, and other areas where we are now looking to private sector to partner with government, there are great investment opportunities. Yeah? Na sasa nyinyi mtawatu wa nyuma, muone sasa hao wengine ambao unajua hata hao wako na mabilioni imekaa hapa, they have nowhere to invest, so wanaangalia huko sasa. Find a way of how we can actually deliberate and negotiate and discuss with you as a collective. Because as a collective, you are much more powerful than you are as an individual. What you are doing, let them invest, you know. But if you could, and we need just to work together, yourselves and Treasury, to get an instrument that can help you, invest in some of these major projects, right? Because you have those resources if we can properly manage and collectively do. And Henry, I would challenge you, because this is something we talked about even when I was at the Treasury. And kila saa tunasema tuko na bond ya diaspora, bond ya iko wapi jameni, hiyo kitu ndio, and they will invest in it. I'm sure they will invest in it. Given the kind of returns they are getting here, given the lack of hassle, because now it's guaranteed by government, right? They will invest and reduce our need to start looking around for people. Kwa hivyo hiyo mimi ni kitu mimi na support, na nasema tutaendelea na hiyo. Mambo ya ofisi ya diaspora, hiyo ni ya Amina, I think amesema vile wanafanya. Labda tukirudi Washington in New York, utatuambia kama wametimiza foreign affairs, but we need our consulates open. We want you to start now, because we are starting hii mambo hata ya IDs, yeah, kuissue IDs, unajua anza kuregister, collect your IDs, nini. Nataka kufungua more consular offices, mimi naenda Texas huko, tutafungua ingine huko. Yeah. Minnesota, tufungue ingine. Kila pahali wa Kenya wako, hata services ziwe karibu na hawa. Huduma tunaita huduma siku hizi. Tunafungua huko kila pahali Kenya. So you don't have to travel far to get the services that you're entitled to get as Kenyans. So that is a commitment also that we will continue to do. Najaribu kukatakata hii story short. Maswali ilikuwa mingi. Sasa ile mnaleta nimewaambia. Nataka pia tukubaliane, because again this has been an issue that is long standing. And I think hapa I've never issued a directive outside of my country, lakini I'm talking to Kenya. We have debated this issue long enough, and I think it has always been an issue of tutaenda nyumbani, tutaangalia, or policy is wrong. Aden watu wenu sijui wanasema hii gari right inaweza kuwa na hii inaweza kuwa. Mimi nataka tuseme hivi na tukubaliana hapa, kwa sababu the ministers concerned are here. The minister is Aden, the minister is Rotich, and the minister is Kamau. Tukubaliane kama hamtaki hii watu walete left hand drive cars. Tuseme ya kwamba, and I think this is to me a fair proposal. All right? If there is a problem with that policy, bas mtu akijua wakati wake umekuja awe anarudi nyumbani, awe na uhuru, kwa sababu they can also not drive right hand cars here. Na uwezi kuambia mtu sasa uze ile ununue hii ufanye hii ukae naye miaka 4. So tuseme those who live in countries where people drive on the wrong side of the road should be entitled, when they leave and they are going home, to be allowed to sell that car that drives on the wrong side of the road, be able to buy a vehicle that drives on the right side of the road, and to be able to bring that car into Kenya duty free. Because it is not their fault that they are living in a country that they don't know how to live. Tukubaliane namna hiyo, kwa sababu hiyo ndio haki yao. Huwezi kuambia mtu umekaa umeishi useme you can take home personal effects, ikifika kule useme hii gari yako haiwezi kutembea barabara. Sasa hawa ndio walichagua nchi vile wanapeleka magari. Wali waumizwe. So hiyo ni directive na nimesema sana. Kwa hayo machache na mengi, mimi nimesema we will still continue traveling. Mine is to ask you, please let us all be patriots to our country. Please let us love each other as Kenyans, not as communities. Let us know that our ability to achieve our individual and collective aspirations will come when we learn to respect, will come when we learn to live together. You know, as Kenyans, this country is what it is because they don't ask you where you come from. They have welcomed you. They don't know whether you're a Kisii, they don't know whether you're a Grama, they don't know whether you're a Kikuyu, they don't know whether you're a Luo. Hawajui, wanajua ile talanta ambayo umewaletea hapa. Kweli uongo? Na hata sisi kama Wakenya tujuane kwa sababu ya ile talanta ambayo tunaleta ya kujenga taifa. Tunataka kufanya hivyo, ushindi hautakuwa wangu au wako wewe au yule mwingine, utakuwa wetu sisi zote, tukiwa na nchi ambaye imetajirika, tukiwa na nchi ambaye inahudumia Wakenya wote pahali popote walipo, kwa haki, kwa imani na kwa upendo. Kwa hivyo wenzangu, tukialikwa tena tutarudi. Tusipoalikwa tuko kwa Facebook. Ukirudi manyumbani usalimie wale ambao mlioacha huko, wale wa Minnesota wasalimie wa Minnesota, wale wako hapa kutoka New York wasalimie watu ya New York, wale wa Boston, New Jersey niliishi huko, sisi tulikuwa tunazunguka huko, na Atlanta wasalimie watu ya Atlanta, Canada wasalimie watu ya Ukialikwa tutakuja, tusipokuja tukijua pahali utanipata. Na sisi tukirudi manyumbani tutawasalimia na tuambie Wakenya wako imara, Wakenya wamewasalimia, na tunaendelea kushirikiana na kupendana kama Wakenya. Mungu na wabariki na walinde. Asante.